Hey everybody, welcome to News by Muse. We are back. Luis Salgado here from On Your Feet, coming to La Mirada Theater. Luis, what does it feel like to be a part of the show, to tell the story of Gloria Estefan and put it all together?
Well, first of all, hola, mucho gusto y gracias por tenerme acá. No, it's an honor to be here with you. For me, it's like a dream, and I'm not saying this because it sounds pretty. Oh, it's like a dream. No, like literally, I was 5 years old, and the music videos in the TV were saying, "Come on, check your body, baby, do that conga," and I was in my underwear dancing on the sofas like my son does now.
Mhm.
Fast forward X amount of years, I'm not gonna tell you my age at this moment. I'm kidding. And all of a sudden I'm here with this, basically with this property, right? Like being able to tell the story of these two icons of our Latina community. And to do it with a very diverse Latino group of human beings. I have people on this show from everywhere. My Gloria Estefan is from Mexico. My Emilio Estefan is from Venezuela. In the cast, I have Argentinians, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans. I mean, what an honor to celebrate, especially now that we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, like to celebrate a place like La Mirada Theater, really what being Latino is all about through the story of these two giant icons. So back to my comment, it's a dream come true.
Oh, it's awesome. And you have so much to work with too. The music,
Yeah.
there's such a rich amount of music that they both had wrote and performed. And I heard the Broadway, I never got a chance to see it on Broadway, but I heard it was a complete success on Broadway. When you take all that and you put all that together and now you're touring it around, what has that been like to tour the country and take it to new audiences and they don't get the opportunity to go to New York and see a Broadway show?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying I had the honor of being part of the Broadway production, and I played the role of Kenny Ortega. As a matter of fact, this weekend I was doing a show here in Times Square called Viva Broadway, and Kenny Ortega showed up as one of our audience members, and he was supporting all of us. But then I was able to exchange, some words with him, and it's a thing that's been going on. This idea of representation. Kenny Ortega, how many incredible doors has he opened? How many incredible artists has he nurtured as a director, choreographer, cinematographer? And the same with Gloria and Emilio. So for sure, one, there's a lot of material to celebrate and play with. And two, coming from Broadway and having performed in the show and then being able to get Jerry Mitchell to send me out to Amsterdam to set up the show for him there, I learned a lot, not only about the show and their life, but also about the things that trigger me, that if I ever had an opportunity to tell the story from my point of view, I would want to capitalize on, right? And so then I got the chance to do the Spanish premiere of the show, also supported by Gloria and Emilio. They came up. We won a few Helen Hayes Awards for it. So we validated ourselves with that experiment. From there, getting the tour, it was like, okay, great. From everything I've learned from the Broadway show, from the Spanish version, how do I, potpourri this, como hago un adobo, and I put it on what the next tour would be. And where we landed was with a lot of depth in the way that we work with the actors, in the way that, some reviews back in the day on Broadway used to say like, another jukebox musical does this or that, and I put it as a goal that I don't want people to see this only as a jukebox musical. Like the life of Gloria Estefan is a meaningful life. It's a life that has contributed so much. One of my favorite things is to see people react in such a visceral way to when her accident happens in the show, right? Because they have forgotten that these people you see as a star, this human that you see as a star, has also suffered a deficit in her body, in her soul, in her life experience. Also the same happens with the trauma that happens with her mother, having lost her father. Like it's a human story that we can all relate. And so when I learned the depth of that, I said, we actually have a really deep, beautiful play here that also happens to be very entertaining and filled with amazing music, And so that's, I think, what I take on around in the tour. It's this balance that we Latinos don't only shake our body, baby, do the conga, but that we have very visceral, deep, complete human things to share with the world.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I went on a tantrum
Oh
that one.
no, that's perfectly fine. Go on a tangent because the one thing I do want to touch upon that you mentioned just right now is the Viva Broadway uh
Yeah.
performance that you're a part of. Tell us a little bit about it. Because us West Coasters here aren't really familiar with Viva Broadway. Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, you know what's going on is that for over 10 years, and I could say ever since we did In the Heights, there was a big movement of the Latinos are here, they have arrived. Well, first of all, we've been here, and people like Jose Ferrer were some of the people that first won a Tony Award, and his diction, he wanted an almost best language kind of thing, right? Because he was always doing very elite classical work, and his accent wasn't a thing, and that was to be celebrated. That's, I don't know, back in the 40s maybe. So you know, when you look at the scope of the Latino contribution, then you get some people like Chita Rivera, then you get people like Raul Julia, right? Then you get people like Priscilla Lopez, and you keep fast forwarding all the way to the Lin-Manuel Mirandas. Like, we've been around, we've been doing things. And so when In the Heights was happening, the Broadway League saw our presence was so strong and valuable, and so created this movement called Viva Broadway, a way to celebrate not only the Latinos on the Broadway stages, but also the Latino community that shows up to watch Broadway theater. And for the last 3 years, I've been honored to be one of the directors for Viva Broadway. The last two put in shows on Times Square, with this year for around exactly 50 Latino artists on that stage in a matter of an hour and a half, singing, dancing, speaking out loud about the pride we feel for being Latinos in this industry.
Yeah, and that's something that is great to hear because you don't really see that on the movie and TV front that often. And but the theater always has such a great community and a great community of supporters who something like that would be awesome if they had that here in the West Coast. But we
Yeah, well, yes, and I think if I may just yes and it with the same happens. There are so many great Latino artists that do film, and we can go right from Andy Garcia to, again, go back in time to the John Leguizamos, who are now really lifting that flag and saying, "Mira, I am this, and I speak this way, and I am honored to celebrate who I am, and not be afraid to expose." The way that maybe the industry wants to portray the Latino versus the potential there is within the Latina community and arts to be taking action. And so a shout out to John Leguizamo, I think, for recently really standing up in the industry itself to say, we're here, and if we come together, we can accomplish more.
Oh, I agree with you completely because John's show really did change a lot of and opened up a lot of eyes. And it was and I heard they got a season 2. So hopefully he
Oh,
continues.
that's great.
But
He's also has a musical that wants to come to Broadway soon, so stay tuned.
yeah, which I've seen him on stage a few times and I love his performances.
Yeah.
But I'd never heard seen him in a musical.
Yeah, well, he's not going to be in this musical. He's
Oh,
writing the
okay.
musical, which
Oh,
is
he's writing the
great.
musical.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's a little hopefully soon.
I won't give you more.
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
to wait.
no, we're gonna have to wait for that one because
Yeah.
there's a lot of shows I'm looking forward to seeing because I grew up a musical theater fan because my parents took me to musical theater when I was very young.
Nice.
What are the importance of musical theater to you? Because I think in a day and age where influencers, where athletes and stuff, and that's what they want to do, the importance of musical theater and seeing the arts in that way, and possibly the next you could be on stage. What are your thoughts towards that and the importance of musical theater on a kid's life?
Well, I feel like you're not asking me one question. You kind of asked me 20 loaded ones. So I'm gonna try to. How much time do we have? I'm gonna start by saying that I look at it through the angle of my son. I have a 9-year-old kid
Mhm,
who has been exposed to musical theater since he was in mommy's belly.
mhm,
The other day I was walking him to school, and I was kind of preaching to the choir about you have to be disciplined with baseball because this is the first thing you have. It's like, Daddy, no, the first thing I have is dance. I've been dancing since I was born. I was like, okay, I guess you're going to miss that baseball practice, because he was so committed to this. So seeing it through through my son's eyes, I understand that there's when you belong in a place like musical theater, you belong a little bit everywhere, because you're talking about all the possible stories you can share. You're talking about the genre of music, of acting, of dancing, of singing, right? And so like your body, your soul opens up to so much potential. And I see it in this little being that I call my son, how confident he is as he gets to explore every area of his being, including the masculine feminine sides of a human being who's singing a rap from, you know, Hamilton, and all of a sudden is singing something from Frozen, right? And it's going through the vulnerability of these two sisters. And so I just think that is exposing ourselves to musical theater is exposing ourselves to the vulnerability of being alive. That's part one. Part two, as a teacher, as a director, choreographer, I fight this battle every day that, you know, when I started in college and people were talking about the theater, you know, you have to do teatro per se, tienes que ser un actor serio, blah, 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 blah. I feel like they were taking away the value of what musical theater had to offer. And as I studied musical theater more and more and fell more and more in love with it, I realized that part of the issue is that a lot of musical theater falls into too easy. We jump into song and it feels farce, and people like stop like valuing the depth of the acting itself. But when you really look at it, when you look at a Hamilton, when you look at it in the Heights and many other shows, when you look at Once, when you look at, you know, so many musicals that I can tell you, if I go back in the day, right? When you look at Les Mis, when you look at what am I looking for right now? Even the West Side Story risk or the Chorus Line risk, like there's a vulnerable entry point of truth. And when musical theater is really exquisite, is when you're really acting from such a deep place that singing is so natural. And because singing happens and there's no other way to express, dancing is so natural, right? And so there's no harder art form to accomplish the musical theater, because you have to be great at all of those elements. And so I think being exposed to musical theater is being exposed to the Olympics. When you're buying a Broadway ticket, you're not just seeing a show, you're seeing an Olympic artist like do what seems impossible. And that's what I freaking love about musicals.
Yeah, yeah.
I went on another tantrum. I'm going to call you the tantrum expositional report.
Well, see, the thing, I like asking that question to Broadway artists because growing up, I was like 4 when I first saw my first musical, The Music Man, and I remember it to this day, and how it affected me, and how I could still see Dick Van Dyke on stage.
Oh my God.
Music Man. Shows you my age. But it's so
You talking to me? You talking to
me? but it is stuck with me now at 48. I have no problem saying it. It is stuck to me still to this day, and I'm still a fan of musical theater. And I think it's so important for kids to learn it at a young age, because I think it helps them in their growth. That's why I have to ask you that question.
No, thank you for asking. And again, I'm here in my office of R.Evolucion Latina, where what we do is try to inspire our youth through the arts, you know, and it's because we believe in the power of arts to be of change in the world. So you're exactly on the point.
Yeah, and that's what I want to touch upon as we're coming to a close. Your foundation. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do, bringing the arts to the kids and showing it. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the R.Evolucion Latina is born out of the In the Heights production on Broadway. You know, it was of impact to my life, and I was surrounded by a lot of artists that I admire, and I started telling the stories of them. And even before people really knew more of who they were, like I interviewed Lin-Manuel Miranda twice before the world looked at Lin like who he is today, right? Like this powerful entity of art making. And so through those interviews, I was learning a lot and asking myself a lot of questions. And we realized that we needed to not just make the interviews, but go into the field and provide training free of charge for both our kids in a summer camp intensive of acting, singing, and dancing, as well as to adult artists who were coming to the city and they couldn't always afford great training. So we started bringing the Broadway caliber training to them free of charge through this organization called R.Evolucion Latina, a revolution of evolution through the arts.
Awesome. I mean, that's awesome. Not only have you succeeded in this business, but you've also given back, which is so
And
awesome.
that goes back to the fact that I come from public school. An after school program is the only reason that I discovered the arts and that I fell in love so deeply with it. And that's why for me it's just so a natural need to be able to give that back to people like my kid.
Exactly. Luis, thank you so much for stopping with us. Really appreciate it, and we love talking with you. We cannot wait for On Your Feet in La Mirada Theater, October 6th through the 29th. We cannot wait to see it. I'm actually looking forward to seeing it because I haven't seen it yet. Bringing my sister
Great.
along with me
I'm
because,
going to be there opening night, so I hope to see you.
well, I hope I could be there opening night because there's nothing better than an opening night, especially with these small theaters that we have in LA that have been
Yeah.
so important to the community. So thank you so much for coming to LA.
Thank
Stop,
you.
and thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for this interview.
Thank you.